Thank you. Well, I'm Lindsay's sister, Leah, and that's been my introduction for much of my life. Growing up, our identities were intertwined because everybody knew her. Whether we were going to school or grocery store, she was like a local celebrity, like local Oprah, meeting people, greeting people, and I was her Gayle King in the shadow, waiting to be introduced. And people still approach us and introduce themselves and say, oh, I knew Lindsay from years ago. My son went to school with her. When you meet her, it makes sense. She's really memorable. She loves strangers. She exudes happiness. She smiles. People are drawn to her. Me, I wear a tutu to stand out. So, yeah. Lindsay was born with special needs. She's developmentally delayed. And the easiest way I can explain it is she's like a 3-year-old with years of experience. And though she understands everything being said, she's nonverbal, and she has about a few dozen signs. And despite these limitations, she became a teacher to me, unbeknownst to her. And growing up, we were seldom apart. So I became more of the protector and her voice. And giving someone the power of a voice for somebody else, as a 5-year-old, that's a really powerful, very powerful thing. And judging, that's me, and power stance, ready to take over for her voice. Some bossy tendencies did occur, but it was not like Henry VI transgressions or anything. It was more like who yelled shotgun first, or like who got the bigger half of the cookie. But my primary responsibility as being her voice, as I saw it, was to help her express her experiences and not downtrodden her actual voice when she was communicating with people. So more like, I would say, being the sharer of her experience and guiding the stories and the conversations with people. So talking about what did she do at daycare that day, or where we were going for the weekend, so she could enjoy and interact with people. So, I think I'm forgetting my next line. Oh, thank you. You guys are amazing. So one of the things with Lindsay is she had to be really patient. And this is something I think we can all relate to, that we've had disadvantages or disabilities in our life. And to me, it's the struggles of how, or the grace of how we handle that stands out. So loose comparison, when you go to a foreign country and you don't speak the language, I think that kind of applies. When I went to France, I was trying to buy a train ticket out of the country, and I don't speak, I speak English, but I don't speak French, and the Frenchmen pretend not to speak English, and until a bilingual Frenchman came to assist me, I had the disadvantage of not having a voice, right? And you might say, a Frenchman would never come rescue an American, but I would say to you, touché. It's very likely true. But this is what I imagine Lindsay goes through every day, right? She depends on her translators who aren't always there, and she depends on the signs that she knows in the context of the world around her. She doesn't have the ability to express her innermost thoughts or feelings or ask deep questions. Imagine having that limitation for one day. Now imagine having that for 40 years. Like, I can't even repeat myself twice before becoming frustrated. And she has the utmost patience for people. And when we don't know a sign, she helps us and does like this charade thing back and forth. And if we don't get it, she holds no resentment towards us. She's patient and accepts her limitations. So she's lived with trust and vulnerability her whole life. Trust that people are good, vulnerability that people will accept her as she is, and they do. A normal outing with her looks like us going out, her noticing a couple strangers in the corner, and approaching them with her coloring book and interacting. And they accept her, and after a minute of interacting, Lindsay is beaming and gets a huge hug from them. She trusts people so much, so this story, she trusts people so much that when we were little kids at McDonald's, she'd walk by and grab a handful of fries off a stranger's plate and eat them. No one responded with anger or violence, right? Shock, right, was the first response. But then when they see her, it's empathy and kindness. And then they move their fries further away. But what I learned from being with Lindsay is that people are ultimately compassionate, and they want to be good. And it's not this fear of divisiveness that we hear about. And I think if we showed up in more of a state of vulnerability, that people would respond with kindness and love. And so coming from a self-described misanthrope, I would say I'm still learning, but the biggest lesson that I have is that love is actually everywhere. Thank you. you.